Yeah, hello everyone. Welcome to the Billy Slater Podcast. After an enthralling Origin series, the Queensland coach back home on the farm in Melbourne, and he's with us now. G'day, Bill.
Good morning, Mark. It's been quite an eventful couple of months. Obviously, the Origin series is highly anticipated, and I think it lived up to all expectations. That last game was something else. I haven't spoke to a person that wasn't entertained, and it was a very different type of game, but I'm sure we'll dive into that sort of stuff. There's only 7 rounds to go in the NRL, so we're on the charge to the final series. But to be honest, I thought we'd start with just the condolences to David Morrow and David Morrow's family and friends. He's a well-respected figure in the game, obviously passing away recently due to a battle with cancer, and I just want to send my condolences. I know that you've had a lot to do with him throughout your industry and your time in the game too, Mark. So, just thinking of yourself and all David Morrow's family and friends.
Oh, that's very kind of you, Billy. Yeah, he was like a father figure to me, and just that big booming voice, and covered some iconic moments in rugby league, and broadcasted the game for 44 years at the top level, and we'll raise a glass in his honour at the SCG on Thursday and give him the farewell that he deserved. He would have been delighted as well, and pretty chuffed with that minute's silence prior to Origin on Wednesday night. Bill, I know there's got to be a winner and a loser, but overall, how do you sum up the series?
Yeah, look, it's I've been around this game long enough that I understand that you can't win everything. I've lost grand finals as a player. I've lost State of Origin series as a player, and it hurts. You always look back at your performance and you think what more could I have done. But at the end of the day, I feel the 34 players that took the field in that decider can really hold their heads high and walk tall and proud of the contribution that they made to the game, the contribution that they made to their state. And I'm still yet to find a person that wasn't entertained and amazed with the performance of both teams. Unfortunately, we weren't quite good enough this year to hold the shield, and New South Wales certainly deserved that honour. And we'll have to wait 12 months to get another crack at it. But really proud of the team that I was involved in and the efforts and commitment that they showed.
Can you take us into the sheds at halftime, Billy? Because in the commentary box, we just couldn't believe how brutal, in particular, that first half was. Were you dealing with battered and bruised bodies? What was it like in the sheds at the break? Because I don't think that's sort of been touched on in the wash-up of Origin. What was it like for the Queenslanders?
Yeah, it was. There was a lot of ball in play, and to be fair, we did a lot of defence in that first half, so used a lot of energy without the football. And, given that, I felt it was pretty upbeat at halftime. The guys were very engaged, and they were very upbeat about where we were sitting. Given the fact that we were ahead on the scoreboard, given how much defence that we had to do, I thought it was a positive position, and the guys were feeling quite good to go out and give the second half a shake. So, halftime was a positive one for us.
What about positives? Because you're a pretty positive person, Billy. I mean, who were some of the players? And, I mean, obviously you love all of your players. They all went out there and did a job for you. But can you pinpoint a few standouts and players who sort of impressed you in the build-up to each of the 3 games this year?
Yeah, I think all players were really checked in and engaged in the game, and they were committed to the cause. There were a couple in particular that really stood out for me. I thought Tommy Dearden was exceptional. I thought he was probably the best Queenslander on the field. Created opportunities with the football, made a line break, and was really committed in his defence. So, he had a wonderful game 3. Pat Carrigan's another warrior that was out there for the full 80 minutes, and I think he made 58 tackles, ran for over 150 metres, and he regularly does that sort of stuff. He's a wonderful player, and he really led from the front.
I thought Angus Crichton was a well-deserved Wally Lewis medalist. I mean, just on the person himself, given what he's been through the last 12 months, his mental health challenges, to rebuild himself as a player, to get him back into the first grade, to put himself in a position to play Origin, and then to go out and win a Wally Lewis medal. That's some story.
Yeah, it's a fair story, isn't it? Look, I don't know the personal challenges that Angus has been through, but only seen and heard from the surface. And, for him to come out and play the type of footy that he's playing, and consistently, not just for New South Wales, but for the Roosters as well, he's in a really good spot with his footy, and he's hard to handle.
Two more on Origin before we get into the race to the NRL finals. Are you the sort of person to sit down and sort of look at everything and go, oh, I should have done this, should have done that? Any regrets along the way, Bill?
Yeah, look, it's, everyone's a straight A student when you look at the answers in the back of the book, and we're looking at that at hindsight. And I'm not too sure. I felt I learned a lot from Game 2 in our preparation for me as a coach, and I tried to rectify some of the things that I felt I got wrong in that preparation going into Game 3, and I felt that I'm a better coach for going through that. Obviously going through the last 2 series, there's been some ups and downs, but at the end of the day, we've held the trophy up, and we don't get to do that this year. So there's certainly a different feeling, and I'll make sure that I'll look at myself before I look at anyone else, like I always do, and try and learn and grow from the experience that this year created. And there's always going to be things that you feel that you could have done better, and that you wish you touched on beforehand. But throughout all preparations, I felt like we were doing the right thing, and then we were engaged in the right areas. And with 16 minutes to go in Game 3, we were still in front, and we're 16 minutes away from holding up that shield. So we weren't too far away, and it just wasn't our year this year.
Billy, obviously what follows a State of Origin series is talk of when we play it, and there's this ongoing debate that goes on. And I don't know what your view is on this, but given the enormous ratings, given the interest levels in Origin this year, is it time to just say, let's leave it as it is, it works perfectly as it is, or do you think it needs to be discussed at the end of the year again?
I think we've got too much commentary around the game and too much interest around the game to leave it. I think it'll always have a topic in these sort of shows, and we'll always be looking for a better way. Sometimes we'll look for a better way while the better way is right in front of us, what's happening. So it'll be what it'll be, and at the moment I feel it works. I feel it's a great separation from the start and end of our season. It's a very long season. It's it's over 30 weeks. It's 27 rounds and then 4 weeks in the final series. So it's a very long year. To have that continuous throughout the whole year, I think may drag on a little bit. So have that Origin period in the middle really works. And like you say, the numbers stack up in with our ratings and everything like that. And that's the main thing that most of the hierarchy in the NRL will look at. But at the end of the day, my job is to coach the footy team. When they play, it is up to them.
Well, that's Origin done and dusted for another year, Billy, and commiserations on the series defeat, but we look ahead to next year. But what we move to now is a really exciting run home to the finals, and gee whiz, there's a few teams jostling for positions at the moment as we lead into the business end of the season. Yeah, well, there's
more than half a dozen teams fighting for the bottom half of the 8, and from 6th to 13th are really clustered. They're within 2 wins of each other, and a lot of those teams will be playing each other over the next 7 weeks. So we've turned the corner in the home straight for the finals, and it's going to be a sprint to the finish on who plays.
Well, Melbourne Storm, 4 points clear. Gee, they made a statement against the Roosters on Saturday night, Bill.
I thought it was their best performance of the year, Mark. They were really committed. They put a lot of pressure on the Roosters, and they were without a host of stars. You think Cameron Munster, Asafa Solomona, Welsh, Xavier Coates, Remus Smith. There's a handful of real, genuine stars that were missing for the Melbourne Storm, but they just keep turning up. The likes of Jack Howarth, Grant Anderson, doing a great job. Tyron Wishart is playing exceptional in the 6 jersey in the absence of Munster, and Craig Bellamy just continues to unearth these players and get them to step in and fulfil a role. Jerome Hughes has been outstanding as well, in the absence of some of his key position players. And if they can get healthy and play their best footy at the right end of the year, well, they're going to be there or thereabouts on grand final day, I'd imagine.
And it's amazing to think that not only Craig Bellamy, I mean, he's a master. People continue to doubt every year, can the Melbourne Storm do it? And they do, but that they've done it this year for the majority of the season without one of the most attacking threats in the competition in Cameron Munster, Bill.
Yeah, not to mention Ryan Pappenhausen has spent probably more time on the sideline than he has on the field, and he's back. He adds another attacking weapon to their team, and He just creates opportunities because he's a great organiser as well. He's a pretty experienced player now, Ryan Papenhuyzen. He's won a premiership and he's gone through a lot of adversity. He understands the game really well. So, when he's in the footy team, the team functions a lot smoother as well. So, now if they can get their full complement of players on the field, and then have the likes of Grant Anderson and Jack Howarth and those sort of guys filling in here and there if needed, well, they're a club they're a team to be reckoned with at the end of the season. I know there's some other great teams in the competition, the Roosters being one, the Panthers, who I'm sure we'll get into a little bit shortly, but they're right there, with the best of the teams in the competition.
And just on the Roosters' performance on Saturday, before we move on to the Panthers, they just seemed a little bit off their game on Saturday night, but I'm sure they'll get things back in order with a few weeks left until the finals.
Yeah, and I think you can get some inconsistencies in form through this period. Not only is it Origin period, but the Roosters came off a bye. Teams have in the past been a little bit flat coming off the bye. And the other thing is finals is still 8 weeks away, so the light at the end of the tunnel isn't glowing just yet. And, you can get this little flat period, this far out from the finals. You get within a month of the finals and everyone's locked and loaded. They're really focused. They've got their eyes on the prize, and their tunnel vision is all about playing their best football. So I do get lapses in performances and inconsistencies in performances at this time of the year. But give it 3 or 4 weeks, and I think you'll see the best teams thriving and the best teams hitting their straps.
We want our best players on the footy field every week, Bill, and Nathan Cleary made a successful return for Penrith out there at the foot of the mountains. And, the script couldn't have been written any better. He levelled the scores in regular time, and then in extra time, a 2-point field goal to get the Penrith Panthers home against the Dolphins.
Yeah, and he also, got his team off to a great start. If the first try of the game isn't the advertisement for the Las Vegas game over in the States, I don't know what is. It was a gridiron pass, over to Taruva, and he's a wonderful player. I think it showed his professionalism, to come back and perform the way he did. Look, he wasn't perfect. There's still areas of his game that he's going to improve on. It was only his first game in about 3 months, so he's going to get better, and that's the scary thing, because when the game was on the line and they needed their star player to stand up, well, he stood up and delivered. So if Nathan Cleary wasn't playing that game, I dare say the Dolphins would have the 2 points. The other thing, Levy, is where does that leave the Dolphins? The Dolphins are a team that everyone's sort of just not really noticing at the moment. We talk about the Storm, the Roosters, the Panthers, even the Broncos, who aren't even in the top 8 at the moment. But the Dolphins, they really took it to the Panthers. And where do you see them? Do you see them playing finals, and do you see them pushing for a premiership this year?
The Dolphins?
Yeah.
Well, look, Wayne Bennett, it's his last year before he makes the move to my beloved South Sydney Rabbitohs. How can you ever doubt super coaches like Wayne Bennett? They're probably not at the same level of the Panthers and the Storm, but I reckon they'll give it a shake, especially in the first couple of weeks of the finals. What say you?
Yeah, I agree. I think everyone's waiting for the Dolphins to fall over, but the one thing that they're getting right is they're getting the hard part of the game right, and they're getting the simple part of the game right, the foundation, and that's what puts pressure on you. If they can do that at the right time of the year, they're not going to beat themselves. So you're going to have to go out there and beat them, and by doing that, you may make some mistakes. So yeah, I agree. I think they can be a real thorn in the final series. I think they can cause some trouble, and not saying that they're my pick for the premiership, but why not? That's the other thing that I ask myself. Why can't they?
You mentioned Las Vegas in there, and Bill, and during the Origin series, while you've been focused, I sort of haven't asked you the question, but this just continues to grow and grow. Next year we'll have 4 games. We'll have 2 NRL games, a Super League match, and a women's test match. I mean,
Yeah.
the place was buzzing March this year. Can you imagine what it's going to be like next year?
Yeah, it's just going to grow. It's going to be bigger and bigger. And by all reports, I wasn't over there at the start of the year, but there was a lot of English supporters. It's a lot closer, to England than it is to Australia. And, I think given Warrington and Wigan are going to play and feature in the weekend, I think it's going to be a highly sought after, weekend to get tickets. I think if anyone wants to get tickets, I'd be getting them early because I don't think they would last too long. And it's going to be a great atmosphere. It's a great way to kick off the year, and it was a highly successful event at the start of this year. So I think it's just going to grow.
Yeah, just a message to a couple of my colleagues, Mark Piggy Riddell and Josh Morris. They were like the little kid in a candy store. Boys, you've got to sleep when we go there next year. For a couple of days there, they didn't understand that they had to go back to the hotel room and have a sleep just because of the bright lights of Las Vegas. So looking forward to another trip to over there, the bright lights of Las Vegas. Let's go to the Manly Seagulls. You were at Brookie yesterday to cover that game. I'd love to know whether you think they're a premiership threat. I mean, they've won, I think, 7 of their last 8 games at Brookvale Oval, so it's become a fortress again for them. Are you seeing enough from Manly to suggest they're a chance this year?
Yeah, I think the last couple of weeks have been really impressive. Without their origin stars playing against Newcastle last Sunday, that they were very impressive. And then you had Jake Trbojevic, Daly Cherry-Evans, Noha Olakawatu yesterday, against the Titans. And the Titans had them on the ropes for the first 20 minutes, half an hour, and they just hung in there. And then they put 2 tries on them. They went into halftime in front, and then they just exploded in the second half. It just looked like they were running downhill, and they've got so much strike out wide, so much speed, and they weren't blowing the Titans away in the middle of the field. It was on the edges. It was using the football and using their creativity. The last couple of weeks have been very impressive. Tom Trbojevic being back, he was the best player on the field yesterday. He was involved, and the longer the game went, the more he wanted to get the ball in his hands, and that was evident. And so if he stays healthy, they're right in the race, I suppose.
Okay, we move to the Broncos. They've been under a bit of pressure the last few weeks. They've kept their season alive with a win over Newcastle. But the Knights, I mean, they've really struggled over the last couple of weeks. But Brisbane, a pressure-relieving win for them.
Yeah, I think it's the most dangerous that they've looked in the last couple of months. Adam Reynolds being back is certainly no surprise that it just creates more opportunities for players around him, and Reece Walsh being one. He brings Reece into the game like no other player, and I just feel that they had their full complement of players back on the field on the weekend, and it really showed. There was still some errors in their game, but I think when the Broncos are at their best, they're not perfect. They're always pushing the limits and becoming dangerous, and that's what they were against the Knights. They look like a class above the Newcastle Knights on the weekend, and if they can keep that form, they've got to find themselves in the top 8 before they can look at pushing for a premiership, because they're still sitting outside the top 8, and I think they've got to win 5 of their next 6 games. So they can only afford to drop 1 game, and otherwise they'll be waiting on results from other teams, and that's not a good position to be in. So it was a good step in the right direction for the Bronx.
You and I, Bill, talk about the resurgence of the Bulldogs. They're sitting in 6th position on the ladder at this stage on 24 competition points. The turnaround under Cameron Ciraldo and our colleague Phil Gould has been remarkable, and they probably boast one of the buys of the season in Stephen Crichton. Hasn't he become a real leader for the Doggies?
Yeah, he's a wonderful player, and they went up to Townsville. It was a very entertaining game last night, but look, he's a wonderful player. He's growing into that role. He's obviously left the Panthers, where he had a whole heap of his success, and he's trying to take his leadership and the things that he learnt at the foot of the mountains over to Belmore. I was also in camp with Reid Marnie for the last 10 days, and he's very impressive as well. I love the way that he goes about his footy, and he was the captain there last year, and I don't think it can be understated how much he brings to that footy team as well. He's got a lot of effort in his game, and you can see Cameron Ciraldo is building that club around effort and around a hard-working system. I think they're still lacking a little bit of top-class talent, but that will come. I'm sure Phil Gould is looking at building the stocks in the key position parts of his team, but they're doing a lot right, and they're sitting in the top 8 for a reason, because they're working really hard.
It's interesting you talk there about Reid Marnie, Bill. I've heard a few people not impressed with his pest antics on the field, but you know what he is? He's an effective pest because he's putting the opposition off their game.
Yeah, look, I don't think he goes out to be that sort of player. I think he just competes and he just finds himself, in and amongst that. The weekend before the Origin series, he made 68 tackles. When you're in 68 competitive, tackles, there's going to be times where you have a bit of confrontation. So, like I said, I couldn't have been any more impressed with him in camp, and I think he's going about his footy in a really competitive way. And this isn't, he just hasn't become a good player at the Bulldogs. He was a really good player at the Parramatta Eels, played in the grand final, and to be honest, I feel the Eels have really missed him. So it's just a part of the game that adds confrontation, and he's in the middle of it.
We moved to South Sydney. They kept their finals hopes alive with another win, which is great for them. I thought we might give Ben Hornby a rap because he's sort of taken over in the interim from Jason Demetriou, who was sacked earlier this year, and hasn't Cracker Hornby done a great job?
And he had a tough run early. It was a while before he got a win, but they've won their 6 of their last 7 games.
Yeah.
They've kept themselves alive. 2 months ago, it was no chance of playing finals, and now there's a glimmer of hope. No Latrell Mitchell on the weekend, and he's going to be out for another couple of weeks. But Jai Gray's been doing a great job. I think the move for Cody Walker to go to the other side of the field and bring Jack Whiten into the halves has certainly helped. Damien Cook's doing a great job, and he had to play a bit in the centres on the weekend. And the Tigers put them under a bit of pressure early, and they were able to overcome that pressure. They're keeping their fans alive and in the season, and they're giving themselves a chance. They can't afford to be dropping too many more games, maybe one at best, but they've done a great job to where they were 2 months ago. Just on the Tigers as well, I thought they were good early in this game. They had 5 teenagers line up in their 17, so that's nearly 1/3 of the team is teenagers. And Lockie Galvin, young De Silva, they showed the green shoots of where they're heading, and I think give the Tigers a little bit of time. They're going to grow into a footy team, especially with the recruitment that they've had for next year.
We've been lucky enough to have Damien Cook on the continuous call team a couple of times this year, gibbering and seeing another side of him. I had a message from one of his teammates today saying that he's getting around the place suggesting he's a great goal kicker up there with the likes of Daryl Halligan and Hazem El-Masri after his performance on the weekend. He hit a few nicely, didn't he?
He did. It's funny, was it his 200th game for South Sydney?
Yeah.
And he played 3/4 of it in the centres, and he was the goal kicker. So if you'd asked him 5 years ago that was going to be his 200th game, he would have laughed at you. But you can see what sort of team player he is. He's willing to go out and do whatever it takes for the team, and heading to the Dragons next year, and doing a wonderful job wherever needed in that footy team. So he's probably got the bragging rights to go around and call himself Hazem El-Masri or Daryl Halligan, but doing a great job, Cookie.
Well done, Cookie. Game number 200 for the Bunnies. We go down the freeway to Canberra. It was a very cold night on Friday night. Canberra taking on the Warriors. The return of Jamal Fogarty really helped the Green Machine, didn't it?
Doesn't make a difference. Just a game management, a good kicker. They've got so much youth in their key positions, the Raiders. And Jamal Fogarty, just with his kicking game and organisation, just helps that footy team. And they're under a bit of pressure towards the end of the game, but they started the game really well. It was 14-0 at the start of the game, and just give themselves a bit of a buffer. Chanel Harris-Tavita, unfortunately, had a shot pretty close to in front and missed it to level up. You could see how devastated he was in the sheds after the game, but it wasn't the Warriors' night. It doesn't seem like the Warriors' year at the moment, and they're sitting 3 wins outside the top 8, so it makes it really difficult to push for that final.
And one last one, Bill, just before we get into the Billy M Awards and some listener questions. Jason Ryles, a man you've known well, he starts work this week at the Parramatta Eels. He's been granted an early release from the Melbourne Storm, where he served a wonderful apprenticeship under Craig Bellamy, another man you know well. I think it's fair to say Ryles has got a big job ahead of him, but I'm sure he's got your support, given you've known him for a long, long time and watched him toil away as an assistant coach under Craig.
Yeah, I actually played with Jason when he came to the Storm at the back end of his career, and if there's anyone ready, it's Jason Ryles. He's ready for a head coaching job, and I think he's going to do a great job. I think he would do a great job wherever he goes. Like you mentioned, he served his apprenticeship under Craig Bellamy, also done time under Trent Robinson, and spent some time in rugby union. With Eddie Jones over in the English team, and so he's been around. He's developed himself into a really good coach. Even the time that he spent the last 12 months at the Melbourne Storm, I've seen a real difference in him as a leader, as a coach, and I think he's going to do a great job. They haven't got the worst list in the competition, the Parramatta Eels, and if he can get everyone healthy and take his style to that team, a bit of freshness. Obviously Brad Arthur's done a great job over a decade, at Parramatta, and just sometimes it just needs that fresh start, and that's what they've got in Jason Ryles, and I wish him all the best.
We turn our attention, Bill, to the Billy M Awards, your player of the round and your team of the round. Let's start off with the most impressive team from round number 20.
Well, it's the most impressive team of the round, but it's also the most impressive performance I've seen from this team this year, and that's the Melbourne Storm. Now, that was probably one of the anticipated games that I was looking forward to over the weekend is the Storm versus the Roosters, two of the heavyweights, two of the more favoured teams to win the premiership, and I just thought the Melbourne Storm were very dominant in that performance. I know there was a couple of sin binnings to the Roosters that didn't help their cause, but Melbourne just looked fully in control, and like I mentioned before, they did it without a whole heap of their stars. So the Melbourne Storm being the performance team of the weekend.
And the most impressive player, who caught your eye in round 20?
It probably wasn't the most complete performance, but I think Nathan Cleary, just with that moment and golden point against the Dolphins, that was the most impressive play of the weekend. To hit a field goal, 42, 43 metres out, and after having 3 months on the sideline, you couldn't be more impressed with what he brought to his footy team. All
right, we move to listener questions. Given you've been in Origin camp the last few weeks, I've got to say your mailbag is bursting at the seams, Billy. Your mailbag.
Just the good ones, please.
Are you a fan of Golden Point from Muzz? Would Golden Try be a better option, or perhaps let the team split the points? Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It doesn't really worry me. As a fan sitting at home on the couch, I enjoy watching Golden Point. It's an exciting part of the game, especially if the game's been an enjoyable one and an entertaining one. You don't want it to finish so a little bit extra. I understand and I get the point of it becomes a field goal shootout, and there is sometimes an element of luck to a team missing, and you get a 7 tackle set, and then you get gifted field position to hit a field goal. So I get that element of it. Maybe we can take out the 7 tackle sets, but yeah, I'm not too sure the exact perfect way of moving forward, whether it's Golden Try and you can still kick a field goal, and if you're ahead after that 10-minute period, so be it. I just don't know the answer to it, but I enjoy Golden Point at the moment.
Here's a follow-up question from me, Bill. Set restarts. I've had to call a bit of footy this year with the sad passing and the deterioration of David Morrow with his condition. Mate, the set restarts do my head in. It's like, and I don't want to be critical of referees, but it just seems like it's an easy option for them at the moment. Do you get frustrated with the amount of set restarts we see in games?
It's just a part of the game. I think they were brought in to try and keep the game flowing, so I can understand that, and a reduction in penalties. Look, I'm a believer in managing the game and creating the fatigue in the game. I think when you do that, the teams the teams sort out everything else. Fatigue sorts everyone out. So if you can create the fatigue in the game by managing it and keeping the game flowing, I'm all for that. And I understand the set restarts, but maybe players and coaches have understood it too. How many set restarts do we see on tackle one after a scrum or after a drop ball? So, there's some deliberate ones there. And, the coaches and the teams in the NRL, they understand it. They know where they can give away one tackle here and one tackle there to get a benefit.
Absolutely. And one here from Luke to finish off our listener questions. Billy, great Origin series, unlucky about the loss. Could I ask what you said to the boys in the sheds straight after the game on Wednesday night? That one from Luke.
Yeah, obviously it's a pretty sombre dressing room after, everyone gives their all and puts in a performance like they did and doesn't get the result at the end of it. And, it's a pretty important result. Look, I was actually pretty proud of them, and I expressed that to them. Pretty much what I said in the press conference. So, I was pretty disappointed after game 2 in Melbourne. Disappointment didn't fill me after game 3. I was very proud of the performance and the commitment that our players showed. We weren't quite good enough this year, and New South Wales deserved to hold the trophy up. But I just expressed to them, how proud I was of them, and I'm sure that Queensland would have been proud of their footy team.
Great stuff. Keep those listener questions coming over the back end of the season. Billy Slater Podcast at 9.com.au. Billy Slater Podcast at 9.com.au. We move to round 21. Keeping in mind NRLW starts this week as well, but we've got Warriors, Tigers, Eels, Storm, Broncos, Bulldogs, Cowboys, Sharks, Roosters, Sea Eagles, Dragons, Panthers. I mean, the list goes on. There's some really good games to look forward to this weekend.
Yeah, there's a big one on Saturday night. I think the Roosters and Sea Eagles, they're both pushing for that top 4 spot, and they're both quality teams. Apart from the weekend, the Roosters have been in great form, and the Sea Eagles over the last couple of weeks have been in great form. That's played at Allianz Stadium, so that's going to be a belter. I'm looking forward to that one. Dragons coming off the bye against the Panthers. I think all Origin players will be back this week, so we start that road to the finals and we start assessing all the teams and who we think is going to win the competition.
I think I say it at this time every year, but gee, it's flown again. I can't believe we're up to round 21. 27 rounds of regular season rugby league. We get into the finals, and make sure you start booking your trips to Las Vegas, because it's going to be another great start to the season next year. You have a great week, Bill. We'll see you on Nine's Wide World of Sports, and keeping in mind the Olympic Games start this weekend. So good luck to all of the Australian athletes going for gold in their chosen sports over 2 weeks of competition.
Thanks, Levy.
Good on you, mate. There he is, Billy Slater, the Queensland coach, rugby league legend, for the Billy Slater Podcast. We do it for Ram Trucks. They eat everything else for breakfast. Good luck to your footy teams this weekend.